Now what we're able to do is we're able to look at these different occupations and explore them. And because of our time, I'm going to cut right to the chase. Wire harness assembler. So somebody who makes cables, reads instructions like work orders, diagrams, and wire lists to determine what you need and so forth, and making cables. And you could say, this is ridiculous. All of that is done in China and Singapore and Taiwan. Well, let's take a look. And this is going to go to a question that you asked, a very good question. So we go over here to the business database, and let's just load the standard industrial codes. And let's go over here. And again, what we'll do is we'll say Macomb County, Wayne County, Washtenaw County, and Oakland County. And let's search and see if there are any companies that we could do some job development. Oh my goodness. So here are some companies, 15 of them, that are in the wire business. So we could do some job development here, couldn't we? You see, that's part of what we're doing, because if we come up with nothing, then it's back to the drawing board, it's back to the list to take a look at what else that individual could do. Now, what we're also able to do, remember, is we can go over here and take a look at the wage picture to see if this is acceptable to all parties involved, the gentleman's attorney, and so if we go over here and we look at the Detroit, Ann Arbor area, and we see that less experienced people are going to make between $462 to $875 a week. So this is showing you that less experienced is a matter of a range, and so we can take a look at that. And so we can say that the average hourly wage was about $20 an hour. Since this case is about 5 years old, does it make sense to you? We're going with this? Okay, now we're going to do one more. So what I'm going to do here is I got to, let's see. I got to go over here to my computer. And removable disk. And I was going to disclaim this computer, by the way, and say that if anything weird comes up, I borrowed this computer, so that don't blame me. This is always the hazard when you borrow somebody's computer, because you know, you're in front of a group and then some things come up and you go, oh my goodness. And then you're saying to the group, this is not mine, you know, and so forth, and everybody's like, right, you know. Well, this is a strong interest inventory, and I took this right from the publisher's site, by the way. And I'm going to demonstrate to you what happens. So let's just take a look at this. So one of the ideas about the strong is to take a look at your worker personality, according to John Holland's scheme. And for those of you who are going to get into assessment, I want to warn you that this is an area that is, you got to really tread very carefully. There's a little technique that us counselors can use, because you notice what happens here is that ideally we want to spread between these boxes. So we'd want like one check mark here, one here, one here, one here. And instead they're all squunched together, meaning they're all 6 of one and a half dozen of the other. So the computer said that her probable theme is the investigative, artistic, and conventional theme. Okay? Now, I just want to show you. So this is the beautiful thing for us to have technology. So if I go to the search area and I take this seriously, so I'm going to erase everything in here, and I'm going to erase everything in here. And I'm going to put in those 3 codes, right? Investigative, artistic, and conventional. All right? Now, I'm not going to put in any of the other data. I'm just going to see what do I get if I only put in those 3 themes. Yeah. Now, for those of you who are taking assessment, there is a conflict between the artistic and the conventional themes. It doesn't mean that they can't occur together, but they're diametrically opposed, right? Yeah. Now, her real theme, and we're going to get into this, as we would do an analysis, and I'll just tell you real quick how we do that. Oh, crud. Oh, there you are. All right. Saved by the, I'm going to skip forward. By analyzing the theme patterns, because this will look at your scales, your scores according to males and females, the more higher than 40, the better. And so by looking at your pattern of high scores in here, I can determine that her real pattern is most probably not investigative, artistic, and conventional, but investigative, realistic, and artistic. Because it's more valid, because we're getting into your assessment class. So what we're able to do is we're able to take this profile and reanalyze it and come up with what is probably more true. And I'd bet you money on it. Now, what happens is that this thing will look at categorical interests, and categorical interests can relate to 2 things. It can relate to knowledge base that you would be using in the work that you do, and or an industry in which you'd be working. So science can be subject matter, but it can also be industries. Same with mathematics. Same with nature. So what the computer does is it takes your top 5, and so if we look at the person's pattern of interests, this will be a test interpretation class. So we see that her interest in nature, which can include agriculture and biological sciences, is elevated. Religious activities is elevated, and in the standard traditional say, you know, maybe the ministry and so forth. You know what it means in this case? It has nothing to do with the ministry. What it has to do with is this individual wants to do something that she sees as being meaningful. She wants to make a difference in some way. So when you see that scale, a lot of times it can mean that, yes, spirituality could be an important part of your life, but on the other hand, you want to do something that you believe is more significant other than just purely making a buck. All right? So now if we look at some of the other scales, science, which takes in physical sciences, mathematics, and I'm going to show you how we put all this together. Oh, darn! Anyway, now, what happens is that now you've got these interest areas. So if we look at some of the interest areas, engineering, forestry, okay, we're going to take a look at this. Audiology, biology, chemistry, college professor, computer sciences, geology. Wouldn't we like to break this all down to something that we could get our arms around and really look? And we do get some information from the back page, by the way. So just to go into this. This individual is kind of introverted, according to this, so likes more of data and things rather than people, working with people more one-on-one than in large groups. So it doesn't mean the person doesn't want to work with anybody, but feels more comfortable more one-on-one or relating to people through a work activity. Doesn't particularly want to be the boss, but and that sort of thing, more over here. And all right, so let's say risk-taking and adventure. Somebody likes to play safe, likes to have some facts to back her up. So we're going to synthesize this profile for this individual so that instead of saying, oh golly, there are millions of things that you could do, what we can do is we can then go in here and we can say, well, let's take this and help this individual to get a start. So we're going to go over here, and here's Jane. So this is what Jane Strong looks like. And what I can do is say, well, I'm pretty sure about the investigative and realistic scales. I don't know necessarily about the artistic, but I'm really sure about these. And this is how the computer looks at all those occupations that were 40 and higher. And then these are the interest areas that were in those categorical interests. So if we look over here, this is what it looks like. We say, hey, let's put it in and see. Okay, so that's the category that it goes in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say, the individual, remember, has an academic orientation, so we don't want to consider occupations that are shorter term training. We want to look at college level and professional skilled occupations and look at that. So let's search. So it's kind of interesting what's coming up as we look at this, because this is now saying, let's boil this all down, and here comes a value of some of these aggregated codes, these categorical codes, because what we're able to do now is we're able to say, okay, so let's look at the frequency of these ONET codes and help this individual to see where the greatest representation is of these codes so that she could begin looking first in those areas. So now what we can do is we can go to print the list and say, we're going to look at specific job titles, but now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the ONET areas so we can take a look at what categories are in here so that we can assist this individual in drilling into these things and taking a look at what it is that she might enjoy doing the most, what is most synergistic with her, allowing her to plot a course of study in some kind of training program. So from here, what we're able to do then is take all these specific areas about how to go in here and take a look at this. And if you look at this, and we look at agronomy, horticulture, soil science, the world is a hungry place. People and so forth, you know, but, and he said, no, it's for cooking. I said, oh, silly me. But see, this is the other interesting thing. Many restaurants will pay people to grow certain kinds of tomatoes or other things and so forth. And we've got the capacity here with 25% of the world's fresh water. And so you can imagine we got the buildings and so forth, so we could be empowering people to do that, and we could be doing good by doing well, by doing good, you know. And so that's where sometimes, remember her religion scale being high, she would like to do something that she considers intrinsically meaningful and so forth.